we're going to start with Department of Ag. Would the committee want a quick overview from Luke?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes.
So, Luke?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Luke Drury, Senior Fiscal Analyst with Kansas Legislative Research Department, the Department of Agriculture. I'll make it brief here, as you mentioned, Chair. Oh, I apologize. I just noticed my video wasn't going here. There we go. All righty. Again, Luke Drury, Legislative Research. I'll make it quick, Chair. On page number 2 is you can find figure 4 that outlines the dollars specifically and moves within the budget. The agency for 2025 submitted no supplemental request. Narrative explanations on those numbers follow throughout. If you turn your budget summary, excuse me, to page 6, that is the summary for 2026. Again, figure 7 will show those individual movements in the agency's budget request. You will note that there are 4 enhancement requests included in the agency's budget for FY 2026. And then, Madam Chair, again, to note for the committee, those enhancements were removed as part of the global recommendation by the Legislative Budget Committee. In addition to that, any additions to FTEs were also removed by the Federal Budget Committee. So, Madam Chair, I can stand for questions or, go anything further that you may want.
Questions from the committee? Not seeing any, we will proceed to make recommendations for this budget. Before we start, though, I am going to make a blanket announcement. Any water funding that is approved today, Friday, January 31st, 2025, in any of the budgets we're making recommendations on will be subject to final acceptance or denial by the Committee on Appropriations when the final state budget is being compiled in the upcoming weeks. And I'll probably say that more than once today. So just be aware of that. So any adjustments to the KDA budget?
Madam Chair.
Representative Rogers.
I have a motion on funding for water, state water plan. Don, if you pass those out, please.
So these are the water requests from the Kansas Department of Agriculture.
One I've got plenty.
Would you like to explain, Chair
Thank you,
Rogers?
Madam Chair. And again, the Chair did a good job in reminding that we're going to have several budgets. It's going to have things to piece together the water plan. And so this is what was in the Kansas Department of Agriculture enhancements. And there is a change from what you have in front of you. And we'll go through those right now. $500,000 for the water resources cost share, $1.75 million for conservation aid to the conservation districts. That is to help the individual districts. $500,000 for irrigation technology conservation. $1 million for the feedlot and stock water upgrade. These are all continuation of programs. And the dam construction and rehabilitation, there's been a change there. It should have read 650,000 rather than 1.65. So 650,000 rather than 1,650,000. And then $1 million for the Center for Sorghum Improvement. And that Center for Sorghum Improvement is at Kansas State University, and it has been going. It shows up as new funding, but it's really more of a renewal. This investment is 4-to-1, where the 4 is from the national and state sorghum checkoff programs. And so what they asked for the state involvement, which the state did before, while it's $1 million, it's one time, it's for 10 years. So you want to break it down, it's $100,000 a year investment, but it's a one-time $1 million, and so that doesn't have to be invested then for another 10 years. But that's will continue to do very much innovative research on sorghum in the #1 sorghum producing state in the nation. So, Madam Chair, my motion is to approve the Kansas Board of Agriculture State Water Plan Fund enhancements at $5.4 million.
It's been moved to accept the KDA Water Act at $5.4 million. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Vaughn, which, I'm sorry. Turn on your microphone. No, me. Representative Vaughn is here today on behalf of Representative Alcala, who isn't with us, and Representative Adam Smith is with us in Gary White's absence. So welcome to committee. So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Representative Roth.
What page on the budget thing is?
Yeah, where's the changes? I wanted to find those too.
Well, there is, as far as the budget summary, this is not on there. What this is most of these are in here, if I remember right, that go through some of the requests, and also this is kind of a blending from what the governor wanted, the governor requested, and some small ad hoc. Does that, yes and no. This is going to, water is going to be a little bit different than to tend to check off the boxes of different sheets. This has been a bipartisan effort by some folks to come up with ways based on maybe the wants and needs of not only the governor's office, but the legislature and the other stakeholders. And so we believe that this is a fiscally conservative and appropriate way to fund this year. And in talking with the other parties, the ones that will be implementing this, they can work within these timeframes. But again, this isn't the total water package. This is just what was in the Department of Agriculture. And is it? I mean, these are just enhancements throughout the pay. I mean, I'm sorry. Yes, very good. This would be, and I apologize, Madam Chair, this would be, part of my motions also say for fiscal year 2026. It's been a year since we've done this.
Okay.
And is this an increase to the budget that you're asking for, or is it coming out of the state water plan funds?
Some of it is small increases in some of these, but some of this is existing money. So as far as the breakout of how much additions, I don't have that as far as the complete breakdown. We can go back maybe through and do the math. But what this is this would be, if I understand correct, this is the state water plan with what was either existing there in there, as well as some enhancements as we put the dollar amount together. Okay.
Other questions? I just have a comment about the sorghum match. Kansas grain sorghum is the most efficient crop when it comes to doing more with less water. And so I feel like this is a very important program that we need to continue to do research on. And the fact that when we give $1 million and we'll get $4 million from other entities, I think that's a risk worth taking. And so I will be supportive of not only that portion of KDA's enhancements, but the package as well. Any other comments about KDA's water request? Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only question is, did we skip over 25, or can we still work on 25? Because wasn't there some carryovers and kinds of? I understand, but my question is, can we go back, or? This is 26. I just want to know your process here. Do we have anything?
I don't think there's anything for 25. I don't believe.
We don't have to do anything? All right. That's
No
what I'm
enhancements for 25.
trying to find your page, and I can't find your page. Thank you.
So yeah, so we are working on fiscal year 2026. Any other comments, questions?
Madam Chair, so I just want to note that these numbers, they don't really fit in the new buckets that are being requested by the Department of Agriculture. So we're asking permission to work with the Department of Agriculture to identify the same amount for the same purpose, but to fit them into the new structure, if that's all right.
That's fine, and I think KDA will be amenable to doing that. So figure out your buckets, put labels on them, and then dump your money in. Any other comments, questions on this first part of the KDA budget? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. We will be adding 5.4 million for the water requests. Other requests for the KDA budget. I have one. Representative Carlin.
No. You go ahead.
Okay, I move that we insert $350,000 to support the meat and poultry program inspection service. It comes from SGF, but there, an agreement with the governor added a proviso that if the feds come through with that money, that KDA is willing to give it back. But they've been supplanting funds that the federal government has not been supporting of this program. And basically, if they don't get that funding, that through attrition, there will be layoffs of inspectors, thus bringing down the time that local slaughter plants can kill and have cattle or hogs, sheep, whatever, state inspected. And so, again, I feel that's a very important part of what makes agriculture and what makes this state run. So I move that. Seconded by Representative Long. Any discussion? I guess I should have kept my discussion until after the second, but. Representative Carlin.
Thank you. I think this is really a good motion, and I'm happy to support that. Thank you.
Any more discussion?
And this is just for the 26 beef poultry staffing demand?
Yes. Any other discussion? If not, we'll
Madam
proceed.
Chair.
Yes, Luke.
Yeah, Luke Drury. Yeah, just a quick question on your on the motion, making sure I'm understanding it, and that is a $350,000 from the general fund for 2026, and adding a proviso on there about pulling it back should federal funding become available.
That's right. And that
Okay.
was language that came from the governor, I believe.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anything? Representative Roth.
Is it 350 or is it 50?
$350,000. Anything else on that? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. That will be added to the Department of Agriculture budget. Anything else from Representative Curtis? Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question on, I think it's page 5. We see an adjustment of 2 FTEs. Those are not new positions. Is that correct? Those are not new.
In a discussion with the fiscal analyst last night, they said that was just an error on when the KDA did their budget, but and if you need to further explain that. Oh, okay. Well, then let me find my notes because I don't want to mess anything up. Okay, these were funded positions that were filled since the new year started. So what it shows is a point in time picture. And it was put on the report out sheet will be put on the report out sheet as a technical error. So KDA is not losing 2.2 FTEs. Any other items for the 2026 KDA budget? Do you have any? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to pass the budget as amended. Representative Rogers moved, Representative Roth seconded to pass the KDA budget as amended. All those in discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Rogers and Roth. Sorry, I have to write this down. Passed as amended. Okay, let's move on to the KDHE budget. Put my papers away and get out new ones. And again, I want to make the statement that any water funding that is approved today will be subject to final acceptance or denial of the Committee on Appropriations when we work this final state budget in the coming weeks. So does everybody have your?
Just a minute. This is environment.
While we're all searching for paperwork, could you give a quick overview?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. The Division of Environment budget summary on page 2, figure 4, I'll note for the committee is those individual line changes there. And then narrative explanations are below. You'll see that the agency did submit a supplemental request for their hazardous waste fund stabilization in the amount of $350,000 of general fund in the current year. When you flip to page number 5, that is the FY 2026 analysis. Again, I would also point the committee to figure 7 there, where those individual changes are enumerated, and then there are narrative explanations then that follow throughout. I would note for the committee as well that there also are some enhancement requests here. One of those being the same as the 2025 request, and that's for hazardous waste fund stabilization. Then you also have livestock waste management and KEEMS database implementation. I would note, Madam Chair, that those supplemental and enhancement requests were also deleted by the Legislative Budget Committee through the global adjustment. In addition to that, the FTE change was also deleted by the Legislative Budget Committee.
As far as 2025, the only enhancement we're looking at would be the $350,000 for the hazardous waste fund to address that in 2025. Is that the only change, Luke?
Oh, I apologize, Madam Chair. Yes, they for FY 2025, that's the only supplemental request.
Okay.
There were some other changes, so some agency fee and trust funds, but that's the only supplemental request. You are correct.
Okay, so let's address the 2025 budget. Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that we add back in and fund the $350,000 in the SGF for the Kansas Hazardous Waste Management Program in FY 2025, but my motion could also add 26 if you're okay with that. It's the same request both years, or we can wait till 26.
Let's just keep it
Okay.
all separate and
My
that way.
motion is for 350,000 addition into SGF for FY 2025 for hazardous waste management program.
Okay, you've all heard the motion. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seconded by Representative Smith. Any discussion? See, Representative Carlin.
Thank you. I'd support this motion. We have to be able to keep those landfills cleaned up on a regular basis so we don't get into big problems down the road. And I'm sure it's an ongoing process all over the state. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we will vote on that motion. All those in favor of restoring the $350,000 to the KDHE Environment 2025 fiscal year for the Hazardous Waste Fund, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. No, we're just doing 25. Motion carried. We will add that back to 2025. Okay, now let's go on to 2026. And Luke, could you list the changes from what LBC approved to what the agency would like?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. On page number 5 or figure 7, I think the figure here does a good job of showing what the agency requests were or are, and then what the Legislative Budget Committee is recommending. You will notice, Madam Chair, that items 1 through 3, which are enhancement requests, are requested by the agency. Those were not adopted by the Legislative Budget Committee. You will notice items 4 through 9, that those numbers correspond and move across the page in perfect alignment there. The LBC does accept those. The only other difference that you would notice, Madam Chair, is in item 9, and that is for all other adjustments, and that is the FTE. The agency's request included some FTE increases, so you don't see the increases there from the LBC. Again, the LBC does not recommend those. So those are the changes, Madam Chair, from what the agency request is to what the Legislative Budget Committee's recommendation is.
Okay, any action on the 2026? Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move that, again, that we add the $350,000 to the, add back in for the waste management program in FY 2026. And it's my understanding the agency is needing to adopt 25 and 26 as a fill-in because they're raising their fee program and they're just not quite there yet. And I don't think this will be ongoing in the future. It's just to get to that point was my understanding. So that's my motion for 2026.
Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Bloom. Any discussion on this? And so the minutes could show that this is a catch-up fee and will not be an ongoing expense? That's what you just said. Luke, would you agree with that?
Madam Chair, I would note that I would agree with that. The reason why I say that, Madam Chair, is that we did make notation of those items that are intended to be one time, and that's where you will see an OT that is indicated there.
I see that now. So thank you very much. Okay, any further discussion on this second addition of funds? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye of returning $350,000 to the 2026 budget for the hazardous waste management. Say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. That will be added. Any other issues regarding the KDHE fiscal year 2026?
Madam President.
Representative Bloom.
Whatever we're calling you today. I would like to make a motion to put $425,000 from the State General Fund back into the KIMES database implementation. That's operating systems for people to get on and ask for help. It stores documents for long and short-term storage. and we have to have it to build a link between the EPA and the state.
Okay, it's been moved to put $425,000 into their budget. What number is that?
It's number 3.
Yes, on page 6, number 3, the Times database implementation. So putting 425,000 SGF back into that account for consumers to get information and build a link between the state and the EPA. Is there a second? Second by Representative Carlin. Any discussion?
Madam.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe just a little more information. This is just for 1 year, at one time, that primarily for implementation. So that once it is in, there will not be, I guess, an ongoing cost, or environment will be able to absorb any upgrades. So this is, if I'm understanding this, paper records, we're getting away from paper records? Okay. And so, do we know, is this the overall cost more? Is this a federal grant or EPA grant to help this, or this will be the cost for? Okay, just want to make sure, because it looks like there's 2 phases, so of that money. Looks like one is for what individuals, the second one would be for CAFO's other data. So, Madam Chair, I'm sorry at this late hour to bring this up, but is this, I'm assuming this is held, this is not information available to the public. This is just a communication tool. Is that correct? As I ask a broad question, I'm looking to somebody that will.
Luke, can you answer that? What this program will be
sorry.
used for?
Madam Chair, based upon what the agency submitted in their budget, is they're narrated on page number 6 under item 3. However, I would defer, if there is someone in the room who can maybe speak to it a bit more specifically, I would certainly defer to them.
Yes.
That's all right,
Please
Madam
state
Chair.
your name for the committee.
Madam Chair, I'm Kate Gleason again, Deputy Director of Environment at KDHE. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So can you repeat your question?
Well, I'm just want to make sure that the safety and security of the data, is it available to the public, or are you a clearinghouse for this, or what? Does it make commerce move quicker?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay.
So the KEAMS database, and we say KEAMS, KIMES is common pronunciation also, is used by all of our programs now in environment, and it is both internal for database management for our in-house records, and it is all moving electronic now. It also is an external facing portal for folks. So, refineries or whatever type of facility, they can now submit their reports, permit applications, all types of documents to us through KEAMS. And this money is just going to accelerate. So we've been funding those projects through SGF, through federal grants, whatever money is available, right? And then for this year, we did an analysis of a couple projects we thought could really accelerate the KEAMS development. And so that's what these 2 projects are. One links KEAMS with another internal database we have that we need to do. And one links it with an EPA database that will allow their submission to also go then to EPA, which is required. So it accelerates things both for us internally, creates some internal efficiencies, and some efficiencies for the regulated community.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Representative Roth.
Just kind of a follow-up, ma'am, if I'll ask, because you mentioned something that kind of tweaked my attention. So there's 2 phases. So are both phases going to be done in this fiscal year?
Yes, if we receive this funding, we will engage our contractor to start doing them immediately. We estimated about 300 hours of contractor time, which we think they should be able to manage this fiscal year.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Any other questions? So the way I'm looking at it, it's the first segment will be $250,000 and then followed up by the second phase for $175,000.
Correct. Sorry for
Thank you.
leaving.
That's okay. Any other questions about this proposal? Representative Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with this funding, it terminates your need for these fundings for this program after you get these 2 phases complete, as far as this
There are
integration,
yeah.
at least. Go ahead.
Sorry. There are ongoing costs associated with KEAMS, so I don't want to say we're done funding KEAMS, right? But for these 2 projects, this is the entire cost of these 2 phases of the project for KEAMS.
So quick question, I'm guessing that ongoing costs would be like software updates, those kind of things?
Correct,
But as
yes.
far as the actual building of the program, you'll get it done with this money?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? If not, we will, let's see, it's been properly moved and seconded. We've had our discussion. All those in favor of adding 425,000 SGF in one-time expenditures to integrate the KEAMS database implementation for KDHE environment, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. That will go into their budget. Any other items for the KDHE environment? Representative Bloom.
I'd like to make a motion to put back 8.1 positions for fiscal year 2026 that the LBC has taken out. They have funding to pay for them, and they need them, and they do have positions they can't fill, so I think they should be put back in.
Okay, it's been moved to return 8 FTEs to the department. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Carlin. Discussion. Representative Roth.
Putting these 8.1 positions, you say they have the money to pay their salary, but do they have the money to pay the fringe benefits and retirement and all of that?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Okay, so no state, they've got the money to pay for it.
It's already there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a question. What page and what number is that?
This is a government's recommendation. I don't know.
The
what
governor's
page it's on.
recommendation. Okay. I'm not seeing it on page 8.
It's at the bottom of the page, right there.
Oh, delete these positions. Okay, so the LBC deleted full-time employees. And the department can promise us that the funding is there to return them. You're not going to come and ask for salaries and wages, okay?
Madam Chair, if I may
Yes.
ask.
Yes,
The
please.
deletion of 8.1 FTEs occurred in FY 2025 and FY 2026. Point of clarification, is the motion to add that back in both fiscal years or just one or the other?
Representative Bloom? Just 26?
Yes, 26.
Okay, so yes, just,
Both,
just,
I think it's both. On the second.
So you said 26.
Well, Mr. Henning's sitting there, it's what, you want both 25 and 26 or 26? Both, okay, we're gonna go with both.
Okay. So
Thank you for the clarification, Madam Chair.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you. And probably more point of clarification, committee. We may need some more background information when the chair defends this in front of the committee. And as just a reminder, the legislative budget committee deleted all FTEs. Didn't say we couldn't bring them back, but you need to bring an argument is what they told us. So we need to help our chair and make sure that, you know, either justification or that the money's there or, and what they're going for, they're already there and so on. So I just want to keep that in mind. One is one story, 8.1 is a different story. Just want the committee to be aware of that.
I concur with those statements. Dylan. Okay, the committee would request paperwork from KDHE explaining what each one of those positions does and what the salary is and the fact that you have money in the bank to pay for it. Is that good with everybody? Okay. Any other discussion on adding 8 FTEs back to KDHE? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. We will add those back. And again, I will request that I have whatever the word is, so I can go to appropriations and back this. I was going to say ammunition, but that's probably not a good word.
Documentation.
Documentation, there we go. All right, anything else with KDHE environment? Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And maybe David, hell, what's his name? I can't remember. He's over here. Luke, I'm not your father. Have a question. This is concerning on page 5, number 1, livestock waste management. I understand that this years ago or a couple of years ago should have been into a base budget, and it did not, so it is expiring. Can I make a motion to make this part of, you know, a permanent part of their budget, or are we stuck at doing this year after year?
Madam Chair, Representative, I may have heard that joke a time or two before, just before I answer your question.
Not my
but,
voice.
But I would note for the committee that previously, when this was requested by the agency, it was requested as one time and seen as one time through the process. However, the agency for now is requesting, the request in and of itself is to make it part of their base budget expenditures. So I don't believe that you would need to clarify that because the agency has said that in their request to make that part of their base. You'll notice that for item 1, for example, we don't mark it as an OT for a one time. And so then therefore, that would become part of their base allocations from the general fund and for ongoing funding. And you wouldn't see that then maybe later pulled out in a budget summary during the next session. Does that help to answer your question, Representative?
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the committee approve $210,000 of SGF for the livestock waste management program for Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
Is there a second? Second by Representative Curtis. Representative Curtis. Any discussion? Representative Carlin.
This has to do with permits and the process of, which is required, a required process.
Yes, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, this is, and Representative, this is, they don't have the full staff, so this allows them to have contract engineers, so we don't have a backlog like we did a couple years ago. Folks waiting for their permits or getting the things that they need to be done. You know, you have to go through a process if you have a CAFO, confined animal feeding operation, so that's what this is. And for the value of livestock production in the state of Kansas, to me, it's a pretty good investment to make sure that progress continues to be made. So that is why I think we should add that back to it, or add that as part of their budget.
Okay. Any further discussion on CAFO? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of returning the $210,000 to the KDHE environment budget for CAFO for fiscal year 2026? Yes. All those in favor? Okay, now the light is on. All those in favor of returning $210,000 for the CAFO situation, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We'll add that back. Okay, now, anything else? I need to pass the KDHE water enhancement requests. We'll talk about those. And again, this is much like Representative Rogers talked about with the Kansas Department of Agriculture. This is an ask that you won't find on your budget. Do you want a copy of these? Pass them around. Give one to David here. And so again, I will say that, you know, approving water funding today is contingent upon the Appropriations Committee approving it or denying it in the future.
It's in several budgets.
Yes, water is in 14 different budgets across the span. And so we're still in the environmental budget.
That was ag.
And that was ag. The first one we did was ag.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay, so KDHE is asking for $500,000 for watershed restoration and protection strategy program. They're asking for the rural groundwater septic system and well testing, which is going out into the country and testing individual private wells, this doesn't include the cities. And then $1 million for contamination remediation. Luke, could you give us a bit of a description of those three items?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me take a look. I do believe that those items are, I'm looking at them now. Give me a moment. I do believe that these were part of the governor's recommendation. Let me see if I can find some explanation.
If not, could we ask KDHE to come up and explain those programs? Kate? Okay. We need your buckets when this is over. Just remember that.
We'll bring a bucket.
Okay.
Next
No,
time.
you're going to need 3 the way it looks.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, go ahead and please explain those programs. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, happy to. So the first is the Watershed Restoration and Protected Strategy Program, $500,000 for that. That program works with landowners to improve soil health practices that prevent nutrients and sediment from running off into streams and lakes. The second, I'm not sure how much explanation to offer at this time.
A brief summary, it would be
Okay.
great.
The rural groundwater septic system and well testing, I think you had a very good summary of that. We work with county sanitarians to give money to low income households to help test their private drinking water wells and repair or replace septic systems. That's all meant to protect groundwater resources for folks out in rural areas. And then the last is our contamination remediation enhancement for $1 million. That one relates to, we discussed the other day, the orphan sites in Kansas that we don't have anyone we can force to clean up or ask politely to clean up even. So we are asking, there's more than 140 sites on that list. We're working on that now with our existing budget, which is pretty small. And we are asking for that one as a part of this because it affects groundwater resources in the state.
Representative Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On the rural groundwater septic system and well testing, I can't sell a house without having in the rural communities or out in the rural areas without having it tested by the local county engineer. And so is this in addition to what all the county engineers do in the state? You guys go out and retest them again, or?
Yeah, this would be in addition to, we're looking for folks who have concerns about their water. Maybe they've lived in their house for 10 years or something, you know. Sometimes there can be influences that change water quality or other concerns that are raised. So this testing would be available through the county, at the county level for folks who have concerns about either their water supply or their septic system.
And so this, if I may, so this money pays for the 10 years from now, I need a water test because I don't think my water tastes good, and so I want to have it tested. So you're going to pay for that when I call the county engineer to come test my water because it doesn't taste good?
Correct. If there are concerns about the water quality, then the county will work with that. The county sanitarian will work with that person to identify if testing is needed, and then they'll help facilitate that testing.
And who pays for that?
This program would help pay for it.
Okay, I'm a broker, so I've never heard this before, and we've never had, and I've sold homes in the country, and we had the water and the septics tested. 5-6 years later, we had to have them tested again just because the water wasn't tasting good, and that was all through this. So is this a new program, or has this always been around?
This program was around several years ago, and then the funding lapsed. So it's hard to, I don't know the precise years in front of me of when it was active and when it was not. But this is an attempt to sort of resurrect it. And it's available for low-income households. So I'm not sure, maybe you didn't hear about it, maybe it didn't apply to the folks that you were working with, perhaps is one explanation.
Okay, I just know to buy a home out in a rural area, you've got to have a pretty deep pocket. All right, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you for your answer.
Could you provide us with the history of this program? When it initially started, how long it lasted, when it lapsed, and
Yes,
when
of
it's
course.
making its comeback? Thank you.
We'll add that to our FTE explanation or submit it with that.
Any other comments? Did I move this, or do we? You were talking about it. I was just talking about it. Okay. So I move that we accept KDHE's SWPF enhancement requests totaling $2 million, and we can put the particulars in the minutes. Seconded by Representative Long. Any more discussion? Representative Roth.
Well, I'm just having trouble with the groundwater well testing and dollars there for what's done, so.
Representative Bloom.
This has been around for years. We used to just take a glass full into the extension office, whether it's the same program that's hooked onto this after that. But I don't think that program ever quit. I think you can still take it to the state extension office, and they test it for free. They always have. Well, sure, the state pays for it, but it's been around, I mean, it's been free for years if that's what you want to know. And I don't know if this is the same program or not, but that other the one where you take it through the extension office is not a new program, it's old.
Yeah, you don't go to the extension office. They go to the county engineer.
I don't know what they're doing, but if you want your water tested for nothing, take it to the extension office.
Any further discussion on these three enhancements? So the chair feels like there might be some issues with these, so we're going to separate them out, divide the question. And David, can you walk us through that? I mean, if this is to vote on each one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think if there's a motion to divide the question, I believe then, I mean, you have 3 items of appropriation here. I think you could just take each of those items as its own separate question.
Okay.
Just got seconded by somebody.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to divide the question. No vote on it. It's going to happen. Any comments about any of these 3? If not, we're going to vote on each one separately.
And discuss separately.
Okay, we can discuss the Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy Program, $500,000 deals with soil health practices. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on that one enhancement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item number 2, rural groundwater septic system and well testing. This is money that will go to the counties, sanitarians to work in rural areas for rural water testing versus city. Representative Long.
Madam Chair, I have another question for agency. Would that be okay? We seem to be stuck on item number 2 here for a second. I understand this program supplies money to test your septic system and your well. My question to you is, does lower income people, does this program help them replace that septic tank or that well? Not just test?
Yes, it does help with repair and replacement.
Repair or replacement plus testing, and you have to be low income to get it, right?
Correct.
And you have barriers for that paperwork that makes them eligible.
Correct.
Okay.
So guardrails on it, so it doesn't get abused.
Yes.
Okay, Representative Carlin. Oh, sorry, did you have another one?
My only comment after hearing that, Madam Chair, is that sometimes in communities in the country, unincorporated towns in particular, I've seen instances where wells are very close together, septic tanks are very close together. Sometimes septic tanks need replaced, and if they can't afford to, the risk is ruining their well water with their septic system. So if this program helps them replace that with those lower income people, I see some advantage to it personally. Thank you.
Representative Carlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's exactly the point I wanted to make earlier, that if we didn't need to, I wasn't going to bring it up, but it is lagoon systems repairs and cleanup as well. So we had a situation in our community. It didn't have anything to do with low income, but we had water running into city wells from a lagoon, and you know, those things just must be managed, and I truly appreciate the opportunity. And it's not, I don't know, I guess this could be a question, but I would assume that this money is to continue the program, not necessarily for a job here or there. But you have to have staff and equipment and time allotted for those things, or else it doesn't happen. So I support it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So a couple points of clarification. Staff is in place to take care of those requests.
Yes, we have a staff working on this because we did receive some money to do this under 2302. So we have started outreach to counties. We've already got some counties in place that have enacted this program or restarting it. And so through this enhancement, we would be able to reach out to more and more counties.
How many counties do you have on board right now?
I think right now we have 17. Wow, sorry. And so we're hoping with this money to get to, several more and reach out to them and spread the reach of this program.
Are those counties that reached out to you to be a part of the program, or did you pick and choose?
I think both, yeah.
Okay, is there a backlog of requests now?
Well, so we give the money to the county and then they handle it, the actual replacement and repair. So I don't have information, but I can get for you on how many projects have actually been requested and have been done to date. But there is a backlog of septic tank issues in the state. I can say that definitively.
So does each county get the same amount of money?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions about number 2? Seeing none, we will vote on it. All those in favor of the, well, we moved to work these, and so we just split them out with the divide the question, so they're all, okay, so all those in favor of 500,000 for the rural groundwater septic system and well testing program, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Number 3, contamination remediation. We've had a couple of bills and things in ag in the last couple of years about taking care of these orphan sites. I think from what I remember, there's 144 in the state. So anybody have any comments about that money? Representative Carlin.
I'm wondering, I believe that it also would include remediation of lakes, cleanup of lakes and other things. Is it just orphan wells? It's not.
Kate.
It doesn't include lakes.
Okay.
So the sites was just up here. I don't know how it's not set to my height. So the sites are related to a release or a spill. So they're all drawn to one thing. So that spill or release may then be related to soil contamination in the immediate vicinity or groundwater. There are some times where there's an interface with surface water, but not always. So there may be occasions where we're sampling lakes and making sure that the contaminant hasn't migrated all the way to a lake, but not necessarily a straight line.
Not necessarily.
Correct.
Lake water. All right, that's where I got confused. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will vote on number 3, contamination remediation. All those in favor of adding $1 million to KDHE environment budget to address this concern, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, any further adjustments to the KDHE environment budget? Anyone? Representative Carlin.
I was looking at the 6 FTEs for it's water engineers, isn't it? It's water planning project development, engineers for every district. There would be 6 FTEs added. Oh, sorry. I can't take that call. Sorry. Can't stop it when it comes in my hearing aids. Apologize. So I move that we consider the request for $1 million and 6 FTE positions for the water planning project development for 2026.
It's been moved to add $1 million to the State Water Plan Fund to fund 6 FTE positions for water planning project development for fiscal year 2026. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Curtis. Any discussion?
Madam Chair.
Representative Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the motion by the ranking member. I would be in opposition to this. I think as we look at trying to be fiscally responsible and trying to put forward a plan that hopefully will work its way to the governor's office on the water fund. This was something that was discussed just kind of as an ad hoc or anecdotally about, looking at all the wants. And it's not that this isn't wanted, but I would be much more inclined to take a look at it for 27. Next year at this time, we go back and look. We're doing a lot of things right now. We'll have a year of implementation, and because there's also pieces as far as to fund some of these projects. And so that was kind of maybe an idea of, before we put regional engineers, which I understand, we had them one time, to bring them back is a great idea, but until we're really kind of ready to launch, I would be more in favor of looking at this, next year for fiscal 27, and see what progress we've made, in fiscal 26, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we will vote on adding $1 million to the budget for 6 full-time FTEs for engineers in the 6 districts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nays have it, motion failed. Okay. Anything else on the KDHE budget? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to pass as amended. Representative Carlin.
I move that we pass the environment budget for 25 and 26 as amended.
Seconded by Representative Roth. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Luke, do you want to start going over the water office while we find all our papers?
Absolutely, Madam Chair, I can do that. Let me pull up my budget for the water office. So the Kansas Water Office begins on page 2 with the current year budget analysis. You will note, Madam Chair and members of the committee, that there were no supplemental requests for the water office in FY 2025. And then I would just point out that those increases that you see from Water Projects Grant Fund and Water Technical Assistance Fund, that is essentially because the agency was unable to spend some monies in FY 2024 and therefore rolling some expenditures into FY 2025. Those funds, again, Madam Chair, were created a couple of years ago through Senate Sub for House Bill 2302. Madam Chair, I would then also note, then beginning on page 5 is the FY 2026 analysis. You will notice that there were a couple of enhancement requests submitted by the agency that includes some funding and FTE positions for 2 new FTE positions, along with some capital outlay. So that's working materials for them, computers, docking stations, printers, etc. Madam Chair, the rest of those then are those changes are enumerated down below. I would note as well that those enhancement requests were deleted globally, and that would then also include the FTEs as well, Madam Chair. So that's just a kind of a quick overview there of the Kansas Water Office.
Thank you, Luke. Are there any adjustments to make for the Kansas Water Office? That's what you need to pass out. But we need some to go this
Oh,
way,
I
too.
thought they were split. I'm sorry. I thought you had half of them. Apologize. I knew that was a lot.
Luke, can you tell us if there are any enhancements or changes that need to be addressed in 25?
Madam
I don't-
Chair, for the Kansas Water Office, there was no enhancement, or excuse me, supplemental requests that were submitted. And then the governor did not recommend a new supplemental request for the water office in 2025 either.
Okay, so 2025 is in the books. This is 2026. And I will remind the committee and the agencies again that any water funding that's approved today will be dependent on final acceptance or denial from the Committee on Appropriations when they make the final budget. Do you want to move those? Or do you want me to?
Well, go ahead, you're doing a fine job.
Okay, so we have another big water request from water, not necessarily found in our budget sheets. And you all have a copy of things. If someone from the water office could come up and explain briefly what those are, then we'll make an educated vote. Representative Curtis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to figure out how we're getting this information coming to us, because what we are handing out here, these little sheets, these are not reflected, correct, in our budget documents?
That's correct.
So I guess I'm just not understanding how we're incorporating all of this exactly. I'm a little confused.
So these are, and correct me if I'm wrong, research, mostly attributed to the governor's enhancements. And there has been conversation about what the agencies feel are of utmost importance. And so, like I said, at the end of appropriations, Chair Waymaster said yesterday that there will be a balloon amendment to address the water issue, since it is our highest priority this session. So that's where these numbers have come from.
Okay, so these sheets that are being passed out around the table are actually the governor's enhancements, the governor's recommendations for the water? Or is that, am I not following this correctly?
Representative Rogers.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a little different than traditionally what we've done and go through and haggle over what's there and some governor's enhancements, because since the House picked up and did some things different. And so, and I would agree with the chair, as water is such a big issue, it covers so many different budget committees, trying to be in a bipartisan manner and work. Not obviously, I mean, you can't have a committee of 125, so there are a few that have had long-term interest in water that have brought this together with ideas of what the governor, water office, KDA, KDHE, geological, all of them together. And so, as we've just had late in the night, just had 2 or 3 of us discussing priorities. What do we think can pass? What are absolutes? What are want-to-haves, nice-to-haves? And through that process, and we're working with the governor's office, coming up with something that, again, is fiscally sound, that we believe will pass. And so that's why, and hopefully next year, the process is different. But, and I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but my involvement, it was just to make sure that the priorities are met and that we put a sound package that our colleagues will support. And so through what's budgeted there, and then through some possible enhancements, or looking at, working with those departments as they have created their new buckets, if you will. And so that's why it may be a bit hard to find, but I guess, Madam Chair, I would say trust the process as best you can, and we will get there. But there's a bill also in another committee that will have this in. So this is, while we are doing this work, it's a priority for many in this House that a water funding bill gets done. We don't know what's going to happen on the other side of the Capitol. And so that's why. And so it is kind of it's different even than our other budgets. So Madam Chair, sorry to drone on, but I hope that gives some insight of kind of why we're doing it a little bit different this year.
Oops, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative, for that explanation. Yeah, it's just hard to kind of get a global picture and to really know that I'm making sound decisions when it's a little confusing.
Follow my lead, just vote with me, you'll be fine.
Representative Roth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is this on the blue page, Representative Rajas, where it says SWPF enhancement of 15.3 million, and then it goes out and lists the breakout? Is what we've been handed on the small half sheet?
They do not match exactly.
Right, yeah, it looks like it's less, but is it coming from the same?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, it is, as it broke down on in each department, and so the governor had recommendations broken out, and so with that breakout, and then obviously there was some things or two left off, and so that's why.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, now, Victoria, welcome to committee. If you could just briefly explain each one of those. Thank you.
Not a problem. So starting at the top of the list, water planning and project development. So this is that long-term water supply planning that you heard both Vijay and I talk about during our presentations. That basin by basin, big picture look at water issues per region and creating a project pipeline to address those issues at a regional level rather than just at a community or a city level. So that's that water planning and project development. The next two I'll group together, the House Bill 2302 Projects Fund and Technical Assistance Fund. Those are two new grant programs within the Kansas Water Office that were established by House Bill 2302. Both address water infrastructure. So the technical assistance, as you can imagine, provides technical assistance to communities and water-related districts to provide them funding to begin engineering reports and studies and things like that. And then the projects fund is actually funding to implement those projects, so updating distribution systems and water meters and things like that. So the statutory amount for those currently is $17 million. My understanding is that this would add $8 million to that grants program. The hydrosuction at John Redmond, that's that pilot project that I mentioned during my presentation at John Redmond Reservoir that would address sedimentation issues at that reservoir. The independent program evaluation. This was the program that's being established in response to the public input that we heard over the summer. Before implementing a 10-year water program that we're moving towards, we want to evaluate the projects and programs that we currently fund and make sure that those programs are efficient and effective. Are those programs addressing water issues? Are they addressing them well? And what changes do we need to make to those programs to have them run even more efficiently? And the aquifer modeling, AEM, that stands for Airborne Electromagnetic Mapping. Sorry, I thought I was going to spit that out. Airborne Electromagnetic Mapping. This is a project that does a 3D survey of the High Plains Aquifer. It's already been completed in GMD 4. This would add funding to complete it in GMD 1 and GMD 3 as well, and this is a partnership with the Kansas Geological Survey. And I do just want to point out, if anyone is interested, those enhancements are in our budget overview document, and I'm happy to provide those page numbers for anyone that's interested. And I'll stand for any questions.
What are those page numbers?
Yeah. Okay, so starting at the top of the list, that water planning and project development is on page 23 of this one. So it's our document, it looks like this. The next two, both House Bill 2302, are on page 3. Hydrosuction is on page 16. Independent program evaluation is on page 19. And AEM is mentioned on page 18.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any Representative Roth?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so the first one, water planning and project development, is that a continuation of what you've been doing, or is this a new, you're going to just start water planning and project development?
So this will be the first time the State Water Plan Fund money has been allocated for the program. It's something that we're starting to do, but it's new funding, and it really would increase the amount that we're currently doing.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? I'm just going to ask the committee, would you like to vote on each one individually? Or as a package deal? Okay, any other? So the aquifer modeling is going through KU, right?
Correct. We partner with the Kansas Geological Survey to complete that project.
Okay. Any other comments, questions about the water enhancements for the Kansas Water Office? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Representative Rogers? Seconded by Roth. Any discussion on the enhancements? Seeing none, we will vote on the entire package, 3, 6, 7 of them, 6 of them. All those in favor of adding $14,800,000 to the Kansas Water Office, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now, we'll need to work on the whole budget. Any other questions about 2026? Representative Rogers.
I do have a question. I'm trying to, I had a question mark here, and I'm not sure if you want to have the agency come up. This is on page 4, and it's not, it's really nothing to cut because it's coming from special revenue funds, but just the, that number 7 on the 757,000, almost 758,000 for contractual services on the Republican River water. Is it conservation or conversion? Is this
That's
getting rid of
supposed to be
irrigators?
Conservation instead of conversation.
Well, people up there like to talk, I know, so
Hey, that's-
I wasn't, so this is just the continuation, correct? Okay, I thought so, I just, just wanted to double check, make sure there wasn't something that I'd missed. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair.
Representative Rogers.
I move this committee approve out the state water plan fund for fiscal year 2026 as amended. Right? I'm sorry, yeah, Kansas Water Office, what is that? Looked wrong, yes.
Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of passing the Kansas Water Office budget as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. And I will remind you all once again, any water funding that is approved today, Friday, January 31st, 2025, in any of these budgets we are making recommendations for will be subject to final acceptance or denial by the Committee on Appropriations. Thank you all for your time. Thank you, staff. Thank you, gallery. Thank you, committee. Have a great weekend. We are adjourned.